Hello everyone, my name is Katie and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm reviewing the brand new Sleep Token album, Even in Arcadia. This has been one of the most highly anticipated albums within the metal and metalcore space, so I'm so excited to talk about it today. I know a lot of people have been waiting patiently for this one to come out, and it's been out for a couple of days. I listened to it fully like 3 times I think at this point, and then I have a few favorite songs I'm listening to like on repeat right now. So instead of doing a first impression review like usual, I wanted to try doing a review where I've actually listened to the songs a little bit more, because this is one of those bands where it's a grower, not a shower. You know, like the music is great the first time you hear it, but I feel like some of their songs need to be listened to multiple times to really get it. Almost every time I listen to a new Sleep Token song or album, my first impression is just kind of like, wait, what did I just listen to? I always have to go back. So yes, I will say that up front, this isn't first impressions. This is like third impressions. Alright, so we're going to do a track by track analysis. So let's go ahead and jump into the first track, which is titled Look to Windward. So I really like this one's intro. It sort of has this kind of like a retro gaming electronic beat to it at the beginning. And it's very vibey, and it's one of those Sleep Token songs that has a build up to it. They're so good at doing that. I feel like they're really known for doing that. This song is kind of like a Take Me Back to Eden, the title track, or The Summoning. You know how they're like 8-minute long songs, and then they start off kind of slow and they build up and then they have that sort of heavy ending. That's exactly what we have going on with this track, and I like that they started off the album with one of those, because I feel like that's the type of stuff a lot of people expect and want from Sleep Token, and it has a little bit of everything for everyone. You know, you have like the cool beats like I said, and then you have that weird like talk rap thing that Vessel does. I don't really know what you call that. It's like a little bit hip-hop influenced. He does this a lot. It's kind of a part of Sleep Token's signature sound at this point, but it's not necessarily rapping either, so I don't know the actual term for that, but he does that in this song. And then we have this build up that leads to like a heavier moment with some screaming, and then of course like the heavy guitar riffs, the really good drumming. This album has so many cool drumming moments on it, but you got the metal for the metalheads who really love Sleep Token for that reason. So this is a perfect tone setting song sonically for the album. Not to mention, it also sets the tone of the lyrical themes that are going to be spread throughout this album a lot, which is about self-reflection and this sort of inner battle of good versus evil, like humility versus greed. And I feel like Vessel a lot on this album is talking about his struggle with coming to fame and getting used to all of that and everything that comes with it. You know, all the people that stalk you and harass you, or people that pretend to be your friend when they just care about you because you're famous, and all the different things that make being famous and successful challenging. That theme is spread throughout this album a lot, so this track being the starting track really helps set that vibe where people know exactly what we're getting into, both with the sound and with the lyrics. The lyrics seem to be about this sort of inner battle to not lose yourself with all the fame and the fortune and everything else. You know, you don't want to lose your old self. You want to make sure you keep a hold of who you are and your humility, while also still enjoying those good aspects of fame. And you know, like for a musician or an artist, it's like a dream come true for so many people to appreciate your art and recognize it and feel something from it. So it's like there's not always a bad aspect to being famous and successful, but there's definitely a lot of dark sides to it too that a lot of people are afraid to talk about, because they usually get a lot of public backlash for that, and people who have never experienced any level of fame don't really understand it. You can see an example in Chapel Roan when she talks about how hard it is being famous. People can't really relate because they think she's like just complaining all the time. So I actually appreciate Vessel's vulnerability and openness in talking about this topic, because it's not an easy one for a lot of people to understand. There's one line that's repeated a lot in this song and then later on the album as well, and it says, "Will you halt this eclipse in me?" So it sounds like he's asking for help to stop this inner battle and this change from happening. He's like, please don't let me lose myself. I don't want to change. I don't want to become a bad person, or I don't want to be like all the other stars out there that completely become tone deaf and they're no longer down to earth anymore. I think that has to be a really unique and lonely struggle to go through. Another line that really struck me was, "Nobody knows where I came from, even I have forgotten." And that's really sad, because you know, a lot of times when you do become very successful or well known, people will assume you always had money and you always had people at your feet, you know, doing whatever you want, let's say that. But that's not the case. These people started as normal people, and they don't want to get a big head about things, and they don't want people to necessarily worship them just because they appreciate their art. So that one is actually really hurtful to hear that he feels that way, but can you blame him? I mean, Sleep Token did blow up. It seemingly overnight. I mean, it's been a couple years now, but they did go from kind of not as well known to one of the biggest metal bands in the mainstream. But anyways, back to the sound of this song. It's very much the Summoning coded, I would say. That's like what it reminded me of the most. I really loved the drums, like I said, in the metal moments. That ending scream and that breakdown was so powerful, and I actually rated this one a 9.5 out of 10. This one might end up being a 10 out of 10. Honestly, the more I listen to it. This has been one of my most repeated songs since the album came out a few days ago, so maybe soon it might get that extra half point. So the next track on the album is Emergence, and I actually did react to this one on the channel, so I'm not going to stick with this one for too long here. But update, I don't remember what I rated this one whenever I did my reaction, but this one has become a 10 out of 10 for me. Maybe that is my first impression. I remember really liking it that first time, but I just think it's an overall very well balanced song. It really has everything you want from Sleep Token. It's a very floaty song. It's a little bit different from their other stuff. Like, I can't think of one song on their last album that this one is completely comparable to. It felt a little bit different. And one thing with Sleep Token is they very much have their own distinguished sound, so it might be harder for them to stray away from that over time. Like, people are going to expect something specific from them every time. But something about this one felt just a little bit different. I like the lyrical theme in this one. It's more about like a push and pull romance and just deciding to take that leap of faith and go all in. You don't even care if it's good or bad for you. You're just ready to emerge with that person. At least that's how I interpret it. So yes, that's a 10 out of 10, and I'm gonna leave it there. Lip gloss break. The next track is titled Past Self, and I feel like this one lyrically has a very similar theme to that first track on the album, where it's about missing your past self and feeling like you might not know that person anymore because you've changed so much, or your life has changed so much, you're like losing sight. And this one had a little bit more like a nostalgic feel to it. It had a really cool like xylophone beat to it, and I'm just gonna say, whoever's making the beats on this album, it's probably Vessel. I think he does a lot of the instrumental, like, he's extremely talented. But this one had sort of like a weird 2016 pop sound to it. I don't know how to explain it. It just sounds like something that would have been on the radio around that time. It kind of reminded me of like the 21 Pilots era. I'm not going to say it sounds exactly like them because, let's be real, no one really sounds like Sleep Token, but it definitely had that vibe, and it was less of my personal taste sonically. The song is kind of the same throughout. It's more of like a safe song, and it's not one of those super deep ones that changes time signatures and all of that jazz. It's pretty much just a cut and dry song. Another song about self-reflection and all of that, and I rated this one a 7 out of 10. I didn't necessarily think it was bad by any means. It just didn't excite me very much. Next track, I love this one so much. It's Dangerous. So I like this one because it has like a sort of darker tone to it. It's got like a little bit of a sexy vibe to it. You know, you have like a nice clean guitar moment towards the beginning, and then we have like this 80s synth sound mixed in, and then the beat on this track is so good. It's got that signature whoop that they always put into their beats with Sleep Token. If you know, you know. They love doing that, and I love hearing it. This is another one that's kind of about a push and pull romance again. It's about being scared to give into that love and jump fully into the relationship. It's kind of like to me, like a prequel to Emergence. It's like that fear of making that jump of faith. It's like when you're so smitten and infatuated with someone that it's almost dangerous. You're like scared of losing yourself in that person, or in this sort of limerence situation. It's another like floaty build-up song. I love when Sleep Token does that. That's just my favorite types of songs from them. It's the kind that you don't really get bored throughout, like it's constantly changing. It's another one that has a really cool metal ending, and that's just my favorite part of Sleep Token. As a metalhead, that's really what I come to them for, and I love the way they use metal. It's not necessarily a thing they do all the time, and they're definitely not a 100% metal band, but they use it as a tool to express emotions. So whenever the song kind of has built up for a while, and it's like this built up aggression, it's like you're letting out all that aggression through the music, and it works so perfectly. It's more of a vibe than a music style, if that makes sense. They could just thrash through the whole album, but it kind of loses its like soul if you were to do that with these sorts of songs. The musical tone always matches the lyrics with Sleep Token, and I appreciate that so much. I think they really do care a lot when they're writing music, how much the sound matches what Vessel is saying. And for that one, I gave it a 9 out of 10, which is honestly really high. I don't know what the actual rating for this album's gonna be yet. I'm gonna do the math at the end. But 9 out of 10, like, that's insane. The next song is Caramel, and Caramel was one of the singles for this album, and I gotta say, I didn't like it upon first listen. It was, like, not interesting me at all, especially following up behind Emergence. I liked Emergence so much that I don't think anything else could have compared, really. It just wasn't for me. It didn't really have my style that I enjoy. It did have that sort of, like I said, that 2016 vibe to it. I don't really know what that is. It's kind of like millennial core. I don't know how to express that, but it's just not really my taste. And I don't like the lyrics stick to me like caramel. Like, ew. I don't know why, but I just find it so corny. I can't explain it. There's a couple moments on this album that I do think the lyrics were really cheesy and silly and probably should have been left off, because usually Sleep Token is very like mysterious and artistic and poetic, and then they throw in these weird terms sometimes that sound too modern or just like not my thing. I personally think this song shouldn't have been a single, but I think the message of the song was very important, so I'm glad that came out. This one is about having a toxic fan base. If you don't know, Sleep Token has like a really bad history with their fans pushing boundaries and stalking and harassing the band members. They're supposed to be like a faceless, anonymous band, but people will find out their real names, find out their addresses and everything, and go try to find them in person. Or there's like a line in the song about how people will shout Vessel's real name on stage to try to get a rise out of him, and people are just like not respectful of the fact that they want it to be more private. You know, it's about the art and not necessarily the person. It's actually kind of a devastating song to listen to, and it's once again about the struggles of fame, and this one is like more directed specifically to the toxic fans. And there's a line in the song that says, "This stage is a prison," and that makes me so sad, because I feel like if you feel like that, you got to be contemplating if it's even worth performing anymore or worth making music anymore. That's got to be so hard, because you don't want to give up everything you've worked hard for and all the fame and success and, you know, good fans you've found in the process along the way. But it's got to be so hard when people just don't know how to treat you like a human being and just appreciate your art for what it is. Like, I could not imagine that feeling. There is a really cool like metal moment at the end. Sleep Token loves doing that build up and then they play the metal at the end, but this one had some really cool like double bass moments, and like the screams at the end really fit the vibe of the song. You can really feel that frustration and that hurt and anger, and the screams are kind of like black metal-esque, which is really cool, paired with that fast double bass drumming. Like, that's some of the heaviest stuff I've heard Sleep Token do. Unfortunately, I do rate Caramel a 6.5 out of 10 just because it's not my taste musically. I understand the message is important, but for me, at the end of the day, it's still about the sound of the music, and it just wasn't really my thing. Next up is the title track, Even in Arcadia. So this one had a really cool, like, calming piano opening, and some really soulful vocals. I think this was some of the best vocal work from Vessel I've ever heard, not just on this album, but in general. It just sounded a little bit more powerful and somewhat different from the other things I've heard him do. And he has this really cool, like, vocal fry moment. It's like a growl almost, if I could say that, and I don't think I've ever heard him do that exact thing with his voice in any other song. This song has like a really gorgeous violin section, which I love that. I love that they've been incorporating different styles and different types of instruments. Like, we had saxophone on Emergence and a violin now, and this song is titled Even in Arcadia, and Arcadia is kind of like, it's similar to the Garden of Eden. It's like this natural haven, this like peaceful garden, you could almost say. So they definitely are still following that sort of like garden-esque theme like with the previous album. I'm not sure exactly if this song is in reference to the fan base or a romance. I'm a little bit confused. It's sort of about like going to this safe haven together and having someone by your side. I guess it could be interpreted in a lot of different ways, but in a way I kind of feel like this is a love letter to the good fans, the ones that aren't toxic and harassing the band members and all of that. That's just how I interpreted this. This could just be a romance song or something else, but to me, it kind of felt like it was a follow-up to all the sad stuff, saying, well, I still love you guys. You guys are great. Thank you for everything. But those other guys kind of suck. This was a really pretty song, and I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. It was honestly gorgeous. The next song is Provider. Can we just talk about this, guys? This song gave me the ick so bad. Okay, it started off kind of strong for me at the beginning. It's like a sexy, slower song, you know, like a, kind of reminded me of the early days of The Weeknd, that style of music. It's very like baby making music, as the TikTokers would say. I don't know, it's definitely like a sexy song. It's about wanting to provide and give to your lover and all of that. But the thing is, it comes off as a little cringe in some parts for me. It's like a little bit corny, and I'm just not really into this sort of stuff for some reason. When it comes to romance, I like the more like poetic stuff. This one's more direct and it feels a little awkward. I feel like a little kid that's in like sex ed class that's like, like, I can't take it seriously for some reason. And there's some lyrics in this song that let's just read them. It's the second verse specifically that gave me the ick hard. So it says, "You've been hitting my phone so hard, I found it breathing through a tube in the ICU." Bro, what? Yuck. Okay, just, I don't know, like, I like when Sleep Token is mysterious and cool. And then when he says something super modern, like hitting my phone, like, what? And then that metaphor is so silly. Who told him to put that on this album? Like, I know people are going to eat this up on the TikTok edits and the Instagram reels, and on Facebook people are going to be loving this. Like, I've noticed this band is reaching my family members on Facebook. Like, they like Sleep Token. This is going to be their sexy thirst trap song. But anyways, I don't know, this one just made me feel a little icky. I'm not gonna lie, it's not for me. I think like the last half of the song was good. I didn't really like the first half musically at all. The last half was fine. The drumming really stood out in this one for me, but overall I rated it a 6.5 out of 10. I just can't get past the corniness, or the horniness I should say. So the next song is Dacles, and I really hope I'm saying that right. He says it in the song and I should know how to pronounce that, but listen, a lot of people were saying Dacles when it first came out, so it's still kind of like stuck in my head to say it that way. But anyways, Dacles. So this one was a single, and when this one came out, I liked it a little bit more than Caramel. Not necessarily, not even close to as good as Emergence, actually, let's just say that. But I didn't think it was a bad single. It's a very pretty song. It's very like nostalgic. It feels a little bit floaty. And this one is about the struggle with fame again, but it's more about being scared of losing it all. Like, what if I wake up tomorrow and this is all over and everyone forgets who I am and I become irrelevant? Like, I could only imagine that fear. It's like a lot of pressure to keep up when you're as popular as this band is. It's probably very stressful to feel like you always have to be on for people and ready to go and ready to make a new album and to satisfy the record labels and all these sorts of things and make the record sales. You know, that's got to be a lot on someone. And imagine just getting caught up in it all and being like, what if I'm not doing good enough? Or what if people get tired of me? And you form this sort of like imposter syndrome sort of thing. I totally get this as someone who has a history of being a YouTuber. You know, on my past YouTube channel, I had around 100,000 subscribers. And let's not get crazy, it's not anywhere near the level of success Sleep Token has, but I know that feeling of just constantly feeling like you have to post a video and you have to entertain people, and what if I stop getting views and people don't like me anymore? It really messes with your mental like health. So I can only imagine the level of fame they have. They have like, what, like 12 million listeners on Spotify or something like that. I can only imagine that pressure. It's a very vulnerable and beautiful song. I definitely appreciate the openness and the realness from Vessel. I feel like he's been very much open on this album and he's been pouring his heart out, and that means a lot. And I feel like people can kind of relate to the imposter syndrome thing no matter what walk of life you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be fame or fortune or anything like that. People have a lot of pressures in life, and I think this one can be relatable to a lot of people for that reason. And that one was rated an 8 out of 10 for me. It was a 7.5 out of 10 when I first listened to it, but now it's bumped up to an 8. I actually have grown to really appreciate it. Do not make fun of me for the way that I pronounce this next title, because I have no idea how it's pronounced. But I'm gonna say Gethsem. I'm gonna go with Gethsem, I don't know. But this song is about letting go of a toxic relationship and finding yourself again. It's not necessarily about being scared to move on, but it's about being ready and just kind of like letting out all your anger of how that person hurt you, and you're like, I don't want you anymore, but I just need to let you know that you suck and you damaged me a lot, but I'm healed now and I'm ready to move on. It's another one about that push and pull romance. This one's more about like a situationship that the person doesn't really love you or care about you. They just kind of have you hanging by a string all the time. Like they don't really want a relationship with you. They just kind of play mind games with you. There's a line in the song that says, I was in love with the thought that we were in love with each other. That is so sad. It's like you're in love with the thought of that person or the thought of having a happy relationship. It's limerence almost. It's like not even real love. It's just infatuation and working really hard to try to get someone to love you or care about you when you're not even on their mind like that. Now, I will say musically, I didn't really like this one. I felt a lot of the pain in the lyrics. Like the song kind of matched with the tone and vibe of the lyrics, I guess, but something about it didn't do much for me in that department. I will say I do like the sort of build up in this song. There's like a pre-bridge guitar moment that has a really cool riff, and it feels a little bit chaotic and more aggressive, and it feels like throughout the first half of the song it's about kind of venting your anger and letting out all the hurt that was caused, and then by the time you're towards the end of the song, you're just fed up, ready to just be yourself, do whatever you want. You don't care about this person anymore. You're ready to let go. It's like almost in an aggressive way, but in a self-confident way. Like the music really matches with the words. You can really feel the anger in some of these tracks, and this one is a great example of that. But overall, I still rated this one a 6.5 out of 10. I can't help it. I just didn't really like the way that most of the songs sounded, unfortunately. And last but certainly not least, we have the final track, Infinite Baths. And let me tell you, this is becoming one of my favorites on the album quickly. I think it's the perfect way to end an album. It's kind of like a bookend with the first track. Like it has a callback to the lyrics of "Will you halt this eclipse in me?" You know, I love when they do good callbacks like that. And it also has that similar, it's like 8 minutes long, and it has that same build up with the super heavy breakdown and metal moment at the end of the song. This is one of my favorite heavier moments in the entire album, and it's such a good way to end it. It's just so aggressive, and it sort of like fades off at the end, and it almost feels like a to be continued. I love how they did that. The first half was a little bit slow for me, but I will say there were some really cool like vocal harmonies, and this one had some of the really cool screams again in it. I always say it's like a little bit black metal. It kind of reminds me of like a Dark Throne situation, which you wouldn't expect from this band. But gosh, that metal moment at the end is so good. Like when Sleep Token does metal, they do it really well. This song gave me a certified stank face. All right, I was just head nodding. Like that doesn't happen to me much with this band, but it definitely got me here. And this song is another perfect example of how they use metal to express emotions, and only when it tonally fits with the theme of the song. And this one is just, it's like Sleep Token bundled up in 8 minutes. Like everything that they're good at is in this song. The lyrics though, oh my gosh, it's another song about infatuation. I think Vessel is really prone to infatuation and like putting people on a pedestal when it comes to romance and idolizing people. I don't know. I feel like he's got to be stronger. I actually wrote in my notes, be strong, brother. Like, come on, man, step up. Because I feel so bad because so many of these songs are just so full of like pain, of like idolizing someone and then they're not who you thought they would be, or they hurt you. Like, man, you gotta stay strong, brother. So I rated this one a 9 out of 10, and I definitely think it's one of the best songs on the album. So like I said, I had that perfect fade out ending as well, so perfect way to end everything. And I guess now I'm going to talk about my final thoughts of the album as a whole. My first note is that it's a good vibey album, which is one of Sleep Token's strong suits. It's good at setting a vibe, and to me, it's not necessarily a skippable album. Like there's no skips on this one. I feel like you can actually listen to it front to back, and it's all very cohesive, and I feel like the tracks were actually placed really well. Sometimes I don't like albums the way that all the songs are set up. Like a lot of times I'll zone out towards the middle of the album and I'll get bored, and there's like filler songs in the middle. I didn't really feel that in this one. I didn't feel myself getting bored at any moment, and I can actually sit through this full album without skipping anything, and that's very rare for me and my attention span. Even with the songs I don't like as much, they're not objectively bad songs, and it really does set a vibe for me. And I like other genres of music other than just metal. I feel like they put enough sprinkles of metal in there for me to still like stick around, but objectively, honestly, everything they do is great no matter what the genre is. Another note is that there's nice lyricism on this album for the most part. We won't talk about Provider. And wait, can we talk about how in one of the songs, I don't remember which one, but he unironically uses the word baddie? Was he being ironic and I didn't catch that? Or I don't know, man, but like hearing a term like that in any song is just instant turn off. But for the most part, I like the lyrics and the vulnerability and the emotion. And I wrote here, it's on par with the previous album, but not better. I do think this one is a good like sequel to Take Me Back to Eden, but I wouldn't say it's better or surpasses it in any way. I don't know. I just really like their previous album a lot. And maybe the more I listen to this one, it might end up beating it one of these days. But as of right now, I still think Take Me Back to Eden is like slightly better. There's really cool production quality on this album and some really cool beat making, like Vessel and just everyone that's included on making this album. Super talented musicians all throughout. I wrote down a negative note here. It says, I don't care for the peanut butter voice sometimes. Do you guys know that voice that Vessel does in most of his songs where it sounds like there's something in his mouth or like in his throat? It sounds like there's literally something thick like peanut butter in there. Like he has this weird way of pronouncing words, and I don't really know how to explain it, but sometimes he does it a little too hard. I feel like he found that sound and realized people like it, and he kind of stuck with it a little too hard. Sometimes it's too much, but for a lot of songs it works. And I don't know, there's like this certain vibe that he's trying to like come off as like sexy, I guess. And I told you how I feel about that. I get a little bit like icked out by that, but it wasn't that bad. I think if you listen to Sleep Token a lot, you kind of like get used to that, and it matches the vibe. So my least favorite songs on the album are Caramel and Provider. It's just the lyrical ick. I don't really like the sound of them either. And my favorite tracks on the album are Look to Windward, Emergence, and Infinite Baths, and those three songs are all great. Like I said, Emergence is a 10 out of 10. The other ones are very close. Alright, so now it's time to talk about the final rating of this album. I did the math here and it's 8.1 out of 10. So I guess we can just say 8 out of 10, but it does get a little bit above that. And like, for a comparison, I give Take Me Back to Eden an 8.5 out of 10, so it's pretty much on par with the album. It's very close. I think this one might grow on me just a little bit more, and it might end up having the exact same score as Take Me Back to Eden. The only thing is, if a couple songs weren't included on this album, Caramel and Provider, I would probably give it an even higher ranking. There's always just a couple songs on pretty much every album I've ever heard that I don't like as much, but like I said before, they're not even skippable. Like, I can still bear to listen to them, so that says a lot. But anyways, that's all I have for this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Even in Arcadia. Let me know your top 3 songs from the album. I'm very curious to see if I have similar opinions or completely different from everyone else. But anyways, I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!